Hey everyone, just gonna double check that I am in the right spot before we get started. Let's see. Yes, I am. Perfect. Okay, so I'm actually live here on my iPad instead of, I usually use Ecamm so I can check out comments a little bit better. So hopefully if someone can say hello, I can make sure that this is working. I haven't actually used Facebook Live in a while, but I wanted to make sure that it sent out the notifications properly. So if someone could say hello so that I know that it's working right and I'm in the right spot, that would be super. I'm just going to pull this up on my phone as well to make sure that I don't miss any comments from anybody. So I am going to be talking about the essential oil safety issues that can affect anyone. So for example, this isn't going to be about pregnancy safety because that's only going to affect people who are pregnant. For example, pets as well as children or whatever. So these are all going to be safety issues relating to essential oils and anybody at all. All right, so I didn't see that comment there, but I'm actually seeing it over here and then it went away. So perfect. All right. So if I don't see your question, then please ask it again, but I'm just going to dive right in here and talk about some considerations for all. And this is an excerpt basically from my book and also the free course. So you can feel free to take notes. There may be some things that come out from questions or whatever that may not be exactly in the course or in the book as I elaborate and go into more detail. Or you can just sit back and listen and learn stuff and not have to worry about taking notes because it's all either here or inside of the free course as well. So I'm just going to flip to this section, Considerations for All. And this is going to just go over some of the considerations that are applicable to everyone that uses essential oils. All right, so I'm just going to read some of this to you. And I actually thought about, let me know what you think, but I actually thought about coming on and just reading my book, like just, do a few pages and just reading the book. So let's just see how this goes and if you like this. All right, so this topic, and by the way, this is from those of you who voted in the poll. This is what you wanted to hear about. You wanted to hear the considerations for all. So this topic of discussion today and this live is devoted to discussing the essential oils which can affect anyone. And this is regardless of health issues, regardless of age, or can be avoided or minimized if you stay within the safety boundaries. If you ignore the potential safety issues or think that just because essential oils are natural and therefore without potential adverse reactions, it's not very wise. So here are some examples of adverse reactions that can happen when you don't know how to use essential oils safely, even a safe one. So if you have any questions about anything that I say, feel free to type your question in. So far right now, Facebook is choosing just to show me who is watching. So hello to Barb and Diana and Peggy and Jennifer and Angelina and Corey. I see your comment over here thanking me for doing this. And Diana says hi. So hello to everyone. So here are some examples of adverse reactions that can happen when you either don't know how to use the essential oil, even if it's a safe one or for other reasons. So you can get a headache from diffusing an essential oil too long, even if it's a safe one. You can feel nauseous from diffusing an essential oil in a closed space, even if it's a safe one. You can get watery eyes, sneezing, and other allergy type reactions from adding too many drops of essential oil to your aroma pendant. Itching or redness from applying an oxidized essential oil to the skin, rash or blisters from using a phototoxic essential oil, nosebleed that seems to come out of nowhere but happened because you overinhaled a blood thinning essential oil. So these are all things that can happen that can portray themselves as an adverse reaction, because you have either diffused too long, applied essential oils without diluting them first. And again, any of these can happen even with a safe essential oil. So if you think just because you're using lavender, nothing can happen, you're wrong. You can still have an adverse reaction. You can have an adverse reaction no matter what the essential oil is, no matter what brand you are using, no matter how therapeutic it is, no matter how high quality it is. You can still have adverse reactions if you don't know how to safely use that essential oil. So let's talk about a little bit about the key to understanding safety and what causes these adverse reactions. Yes, of course, the essential oils are the things that are causing the adverse reactions, but why are they being caused? And it's all in the constituents. So this is something that I touched on. It must have been last year when I did a live and I had those fun slides with all the pictures and stuff. I don't have that today, but I'm just going to communicate and talk to you just like we were sitting down together at lunch or whatever and having a conversation about these topics that are super, super important. So a lot of people consider essential oils as like an ingredient. Like peppermint essential oil is an ingredient. Like if you are looking at a blend, and you can see all the individual essential oils that are in that blend, you can pick out the individual essential oils and consider those as ingredients. Or maybe you've picked up a toothpaste or a mouthwash or a skincare product and it has an essential oil in it. So there's lots of reasons why we would assume the essential oil is an ingredient without realizing an essential oil is made up of lots of their own ingredients, for example, and that is called a constituent. So it's important to understand what constituents are so that you can fully understand how essential oils work. Constituents are the oil-soluble components created during the extraction process of essential oils. What essential oils are made up of when broken down molecularly. So during steam distillation of, for example, lavender plants and flowers and leaves and all of that stuff, after steam distillation happens, what you have is the result of the steam distillation product, which is the oil-soluble constituents, which we call essential oils, and the water-soluble constituents, which are sold as hydrosols. Cake, for example, going back to the example, if it's just not an ingredient, cake, for example, is just not just cake, right? We know that when we buy cake or when we create cake, especially if we create cake, we know it's not just cake, right? It's flour, sugar, eggs, flavorings, all of that we put in our cake batter to create that cake. And it's similar with essential oils. They are made up of ingredients called constituents, like the linalool in lavender or the menthol in peppermint. Scientists and researchers have actually given these constituents names, like linalool and menthol, and have attributed various therapeutic properties and safety concerns to them based on their actions. So knowing these constituents' individual therapeutic properties, benefits, and safety concerns can help us determine the safety of the essential oil as a whole. This is the key to understanding safety. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm just making sure I'm on my iPad for the first time. Let me make sure the volume is loud enough. If not, I can try to turn it up. If that's an issue, let me know. Hey, Amanda and Morgan and Teresa and Alice and Stacy and Camilla, thanks so much for watching. And hey, Chris as well. We are talking about the considerations for everyone when it comes to using essential oils safely. So these are considerations that no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter what essential oil you are using, some of these adverse reactions can still happen if you don't properly understand the safety and how to use them. Awesome, Diana and Stacy. Thanks so much. Corey as well for letting me know it sounds good. Perfect. Okay, excellent. So, let's see. All right. Because essential oils contain dozens, sometimes hundreds of constituents, they often have multiple benefits and affect more than one body system. And this is something the Academy students and I are going over. each body system, we're taking a full month to study it and everything. And this is something that is very, very obvious to us, that you can have an essential oil that can help both calm a certain part of the body system or certain area of the body system, and then also stimulate a different area at the same time. And that is because of all of the constituents that are contained in essential oils and how they can affect different body systems in different ways. And that's because of the complexity of an essential oil. So there are a few constituents that we look for either in a GCMS report or whatnot that can flag potential safety issues with that specific essential oil. And if there's enough of this constituent in an essential oil, then we can go ahead and label it as never ever use this with caution, make sure you dilute it to a certain amount, otherwise you could have issues. Because there's so much of these constituents, maybe it's not safe for children, etc. So there are some essential oils that must be used with caution, and it's due to the constituents in those essential oils. So here are some examples, and this may totally gloss your eyes over. It's okay, just kind of sit there and just absorb what you can and just ignore the rest. All right, so there's a couple that we're going to go over. This is not at all by any means a thorough, deep textbook. This is a book, a guide to help you learn how to use essential oils safely and have you understand it, hopefully, without getting too deep so that you give up completely and are overwhelmed. So menthol is a constituent commonly found in peppermint and other essential oils, mostly peppermint and cornmint, and it mimics the cold receptors in the lungs. It can cause labored breathing and slowed respiration due to the feeling of being unable to breathe. And this is probably not new to you. I try to share this sort of information often because peppermint is a popular essential oil and most of us do have it, and a lot of us also have children in the home. And due to the high menthol content in peppermint, it is not recommended to use with children under the age of 6 years old. So be aware of that if this is new information for you. Again, menthol can mimic the cold receptors in the lungs and cause labored breathing and slowed respiration. All right, a few other constituents, and these are potentially carcinogenic. Actually, these constituents are carcinogenic, and it makes the essential oil potentially carcinogenic depending on how much of this constituent is in them, how often and how much that we are using them. Estragol, methyl eugenol, and safrole are three common carcinogenic constituents that are found in essential oils. And they can be found in essential oils of camphor, ravinsara, nutmeg, myrtle, laurel leaf, certain chemotypes of basil and myrtle as a few examples. And these should be avoided by everyone. We are all susceptible to cancer. If we don't need to use these potentially carcinogenic essential oils, then we shouldn't need to use them. There are lots of essential oils at our disposal that don't have this risk. Furanocoumarins are phototoxic. So some of you may be aware of some phototoxic essential oils such as lemon, at least the cold pressed version, the cold pressed version of lime, the cold pressed version of bergamot, etc. These are most often found in citrus essential oils, but not all citrus are phototoxic. Not all of them contain furanocoumarins. And based on these constituents and many others, we know which essential oils have risks due to do they have furanocoumarins present and how much do they have, and based on how much it has, then we know how much that we need to dilute. Hey Tracy and Carol, thanks so much for joining us live here. We are talking about considerations for all when it comes to using essential oils safely. And so this is pertinent to everyone. Everyone should be hearing this information. And again, essential oils contain dozens, if not hundreds of constituents, and they often have multiple benefits and affect more than one body system. Now, some essential oils only affect certain groups of people, such as pregnant women, young children, people taking medications, etc. And some can affect everyone, which is our topic today. And this is why it's not wise to diffuse in public spaces. It's not wise to constantly be diffusing in your home. If you have pets, if you have children, if people are on medication, if you have visitors over, it's not a good idea to diffuse if you are running a public business and you have a diffuser in your reception area. Not a great idea. So let's take a look at some of the adverse reactions in more detail and the potentials for that. And the first one is going to be phototoxicity. This is fairly common. I've had numerous emails from people who have been like, I applied this thing to my son's neck. I mean, this was super popular a few years back. There was a woman who applied a Focus blend that was it was already in a roller sold by the company, and she rolled it up and down her son's spine. He did have a t-shirt on and he was playing outside, and he got phototoxic reactions where it was applied on his neck and all the way down his spine, even under a t-shirt. T-shirts are not the best at protecting your skin from the sun. You can still get a burn, or in this case, a phototoxic reaction. And phototoxicity or photosensitization occurs when using certain essential oils topically with exposure to the sun or tanning beds or other UV light. And it can look like mild to severe damage on the skin. It can be permanent. It can be painful. There are varying degrees of what this can look like. It can look like a little bit of redness. It can look like blisters, depending on how much you have used, where you've applied it, how often, how long you were exposed to the sun, and all of that stuff. So the damage happens when the furanocoumarin containing essential oils are applied to the skin and react to the UV light. So if you are using if you are using phototoxic essential oils topically and you do not have that UV light exposure, then you won't have that reaction. And this causes an inflammatory reaction on the skin that can last several weeks. The visible signs are, and these can take up to 3 days to show. So if you are in the sun, if you're going out this afternoon and you have a phototoxic essential oil applied to your skin and you're going out and you have that sun exposure, it may not show up until tomorrow. It can take up to 3 days to become visible after the initial UV exposure. And what it can look like is severe redness, like a sunburn, darkening of the skin pigmentation, edema or swelling, or blistering. So any of those can be signs of a phototoxic reaction from using an essential oil. So if you are wondering, oh my gosh, how can I avoid this? I have some good news for you. So if you have applied phototoxic essential oils to your skin above safe dilutions, because there are safe dilutions that you can apply essential oils to your skin as long as you don't go over a topical max, and that we'll get to as well. Another thing you can do is not expose your skin to UV light for 12 to 18 hours. You can cover up any skin that you have applied a phototoxic essential oil to. Just make sure you are covering it up appropriately. Again, t-shirts and thin shirts usually are not going to be enough to block that off. Something heavier like denim is going to be much, much better. All right, so the easiest way, does anybody know? I'm going to actually shoot this question out to you. Does anyone know what the easiest way to avoid photosensitization is? Can you think of a way to ensure that you will never ever have a phototoxic reaction on your skin from a furanocoumarin containing essential oil? Any ideas what you could possibly do to make sure that you do not ever have that sort of reaction? I'm going to shoot it out to you and see who can type in a remark. How to avoid phototoxic reaction on your skin. What is the easiest way? Diana says dilution. That is a great answer. And yes, that would be the wise way to do it. But even beyond that, yes, Lexi, is just don't use it. Stacy says don't use a phototoxic oil if you know you will be in the sun. Yeah, that would be the easiest way. Just don't apply phototoxic essential oils to your skin. So yes. However, there are safe ways that you can use them. So first of all, do not write off all citrus essential oils as being phototoxic. Not all of them are. And I will give you a list of the few that are safe to apply topically at any dilution. And this is either because they have, well, this is because they've had the furanocoumarins removed, or, you know, either by different types of distillation, or they are steam distilled, or they are maybe cold pressed and then fractionally distilled afterwards. Either way, these are going to be safe. So steam distilled bergamot, not cold pressed. Cold pressed is not going to be safe. Steam distilled bergamot. Now this can be labeled as furanocoumarin free, FCF, bergaptan free, but steam distilled bergamot is safe to use at any dilution in the sun. Steam distilled lemon, steam distilled lime, cold pressed mandarin, cold pressed sweet orange, and cold pressed tangerine. Now, there are some essential oils that do contain furanocoumarins, and they need to be diluted carefully before applying to the skin. And whenever I'm giving this sort of information, this is very specific to phototoxicity, but there may be other safety issues involved with the essential oils that I'm about to describe, such as angelica root is one I'm about to mention, that needs a 0.8% dilution before applying topically to the skin. And you know, you may never have a reason to apply these topically, but there may be other safety issues beyond the topic that I'm talking about. So make sure that you find out that information before using it. Cold pressed bergamot has a 0.4% topical max. Cold pressed grapefruit has a 4% topical max. Cold pressed lemon has a 2% topical max. Lime has a 0.7% topical max. Again, that is cold pressed. Cold pressed mandarin leaf is 0.17. Bitter orange is 1.25. And rue is 0.15. Now, those are really low dilutions. Some of them are really low dilutions, and it's really difficult to justify applying something to at a 0.15% dilution. Like, you're not going to get much therapeutic value out of that anyways. But that's kind of like another conversation. So that's kind of a rundown of phototoxic essential oils, and this applies to everyone. This applies to you if you are applying these to your skin and if you are not properly diluting them first. And this even applies to you if no matter what brand you are using, no matter what the quality is, no matter what grade, all of those things. It's still going to give you issues if you are applying it topically, and so just be safe. All right, so another category of a consideration for all that we are discussing when it comes to using essential oils safely is going to be anticoagulant or blood thinning essential oils. This affects anyone with blood, and I think that means everybody, right? So again, excerpt from my book and free course as well. So you can go ahead and take notes if you want to. I've actually been elaborating a little bit and sprinkling a little bit more information in here. But all of this information is found in the free course and in the book as well. So let's take a moment. Actually, does anyone have any questions about the topic of phototoxicity before I move on to the topic of blood thinning essential oils? Please let me know. I'll give you guys a minute. If you have a question about that, go ahead and throw it in. I know there's a little bit of delay. Hello, Heidi. Hey, Barbara. Hello, everyone that's joined us today for our discussion on safety issues with essential oils that can affect everyone, no matter what your age is, no matter what stage you are in of life, and no matter what brand you are using. All right, so I'm not seeing any comments or questions yet about the phototoxicity subject, but if you have any, I know there's a little bit of delay in Facebook, throw them in. I'm going to move on to the blood thinning essential oils. So anticoagulant essential oils are essential oils that can prevent the blood from clotting. Now, clotting is an amazing feature that our blood has that prevents us from bleeding out every time we get a small cut. So this is something that we want our body to do. And if we are using blood thinning essential oils, it can prevent our body's natural ability to clot properly and safely. And so while the effects may not be obvious to everyone, the risks of using these essential oils can be fatal. Not to scare anybody here, but we are talking about blood, and you do have the potential, like in an extreme situation, if you've been consuming a bunch of blood thinning essential oils and you go to have surgery, your surgeon may have trouble stopping the bleeding. So it can be very serious. It's usually not that serious, but it can be pretty serious. So here are 4 different scenarios where you may really want to listen closely to this information and have it, just really make sure that you understand this information. Because if any of these conditions or situations apply to you, then you are more prone to risks when using blood thinning essential oils. So if you are on blood thinners such as Coumadin or warfarin, even if you are just taking a baby aspirin every day, if you have hemophilia or other bleeding disorders, if you are prone to bloody noses, if you are about to have surgery, including dental surgery, or recently had surgery, then you really want to make sure that you understand this information. Again, it's found in my book, but it's also found in the free course with the same name. So you can access this information as you are able. So in most cases, only the method of ingestion is not recommended and topical use is considered safe. However, even inhalation, such as when diffusing, can cause the blood to thin, so caution is warranted, especially if you already know you're prone to bloody noses, etc. So these essential oils, I'm going to list some for you. This is not an exhaustive list. This is to get you started. But these essential oils do present a risk of thinning the blood when inhaled, used topically, or ingested. And make sure that you note these Latin names. I'm not going to actually read all the Latin names to you, but as you access this list inside of the free course, to make sure that you understand and distinguish one essential oil from a different one that is from another species, which may not inhibit blood clotting. And I mentioned that because I have lavendin here, and a lot of people confuse that with lavender, and they are not the same essential oil. So here are some of the essential oils that are known to be blood thinning that everyone should be aware of, especially if you are taking blood thinning medications, etc., like I already went through in the beginning. So we have sweet birch, we have cassia, we have cinnamon bark, cinnamon leaf, clove, bitter fennel, sweet fennel, garlic, lavendin, marjoram wild, specifically the cavacrol chemotype, oregano, and wintergreen. And that is just a handful of the essential oils that can be blood thinning. So if this is a topic that interests you, it may be worth your while to invest access into our club. I have a full class devoted to this. You can download the printable that has all of the essential oils on it. You can also access, these are all noted in my other books, Essential Oil Profiles and Essential Oil Safety Files. Any essential oil that is blood thinning is noted in those as well. All right, so that takes care of the blood thinning essential oils. And again, we are talking about essential oil safety issues and concerns that apply to everyone. So this isn't just if you're pregnant, this applies. It's not just if you have pets, this applies. This applies to anyone and everyone. So it's wise to be aware of the safety issues for essential oils that you may be using. I mean, I just mentioned cinnamon bark and cinnamon leaf, and I think most of us contain, or most of us have an anti-germ blend that we've purchased that contains cinnamon bark or leaf in there. So you want to be aware of this information. Stacy's asking a great question. Would the herb form be safe, oils being less safe due to potency? Yeah. So safety issues for essential oils generally do not apply to herbs. And this has to do with the steam distillation process that essential oils go through. So where the actual herb can be safe, and fine for us to consume, you know, in teas or whatever, however that we are doing that. Once that plant matter goes through the steam distillation process, some essential oils, the safety changes, and that is due to the separation of the oil soluble and the water soluble constituents from the plant that may contain the safe compounds. And I'm actually going to get into this next with the potentially carcinogenic essential oils, that the steam distillation, the processing of essential oils can actually change the safety. So yes, the herb form is safe. Generally, herbs are going to be safe for anyone to use. There are a few herbs that may have some safety issues when you consume it, especially maybe during pregnancy. Those are very few and far between, but the safety issues for the herbs and spices and essential oils are not generally going to be the same. All right, so great question. You are very welcome. And actually, I have that information in the beginning of the book here, the introduction to essential oils, and I do talk about the different extraction methods and all of that in the beginning. And again, this is not like, don't buy my book. I actually don't have any more in stock. You can't buy it anyways. You can pre-order it, but this information is in the free course. So you can look right over there for more information. You do not have to buy this book. Corey said, got to run to a work meeting, just bought the book. Thanks. You are very welcome. Thanks for showing up. You can always watch the replay if you need to. All right. So potentially carcinogenic essential oils from this book. And also, again, we have a free course. Alrighty, so if anybody has any questions about blood thinning essential oils, go ahead and throw those in if you have any more questions about that. Otherwise, I will dive right into talking about potentially carcinogenic essential oils. Hey, Lori, thanks so much for watching. Stacey says, great book on the way soon, I hope, pending shipping. Yeah, so I actually heard from somebody who has received their book, but if you look at the tracking, it was just weird. So I don't know. Your book is most likely on its way. They were all shipped out this week already, with the exception of the few that I have back here that I grabbed today that I have to ship out today. But it's on its way. Sometimes it's just a lag in the updates for some reason. So, but it's so frustrating when you're waiting for something. It's like, why is it that's when you feel like there is a delay, right? So, so annoying. But it's all at the post office. It's all at the post office, I promise. Or at least at the post office, if not farther. Alrighty, so some essential oils contain constituents that are potentially carcinogenic. So we did go over already some constituents that are phototoxic. We did go over some of the essential oils that are blood thinning, and that is due to some constituents as well. And now we're going to be talking about the potentially carcinogenic essential oils. And this is, you know, again, I realize there are plenty of other substances out there that cause cancer. So often I will get remarks like, why are you talking about potentially carcinogenic essential oils? Because it's better to have an essential oil that you're using than a different chemical or whatever. The thing is, they're all the same. Bad is bad, whether it's an essential oil, whether it's a fragrance, whether it's whatever. Like if it has the potential to cause cancer, then you don't want to use it. It's just that plain and simple. So this is not to justify the use of essential oils at all. But we should be aware, just like we are aware about potential food, fragrances, body care product, all of those things that have the potential to cause cancer or other health issues. We want to be aware of the essential oils that have those same issues, right? Because why not? If we have this information, why not use it? Why not avoid the few essential oils that are potentially carcinogenic? We have hundreds to choose from, and then we aren't adding that to our already, toxic load that we may already have. Ingestion is very popular, and unfortunately, a lot of these essential oils that are potentially carcinogenic are included in daily supplements, etc. So this really needs to be addressed. So this is not going to go into the details of cancer and how it works. This is not the primary focus at all here, but we do want to talk about some essential oils that have constituents that may stimulate cell proliferation and others that may increase the number of oxygen radicals. Some constituents initiate carcinogenic action, while others may promote carcinogenic action if initiated by another substance. Other essential oil constituents may exhibit estrogen-like activity. There are many different actions that essential oils can take. Multiple drops of essential oils consumed on a daily basis is reckless. It's encouraged by social media. You can see it everywhere. All the time people are telling you to ingest essential oils, especially if you're sick. And some of the essential oils recommended are not safe, and they're on this list of potentially carcinogenic. This kind of regular long-term use is just going to increase your potential for adverse reactions and put you at risk, and it's just not okay. All right, so there are some people who are at higher risk than others, so I'm going to run through these for you. Those who are at higher risk for a reaction with potentially carcinogenic essential oils are infants, elderly, people with genetic susceptibility to cancer, people with a personal or family history of cancer, those who have occupational exposure to carcinogens, smokers, and heavy drinkers. Additionally, essential oils are reported to interfere with chemotherapy, and so we do not recommend using essential oils a week before or a month after treatment. We just don't know yet how that's going to affect. It could cause chemotherapy to not work at all. It could cause it to be more aggressive and harmful. There's not enough information at this time, so we recommend avoiding essential oils around that time. High-risk individuals, the list that I just read, need to be extra careful not to expose themselves to potentially carcinogenic essential oils. All right, so here is a list of some of the essential oils, and there are more than this that you can access either inside of the club. I have a whole class. I have a whole cheat sheets that you can download and print out. They're also noted in my other two books, Essential Oil Profiles and Essential Oil Safety Files. But I do have a list here that I will read off to you. I'm not going to read all the botanical names also, but I will read off the essential oils to you. So these essential oils contain one or more potentially carcinogenic constituents with high enough levels to be avoided completely. And by avoided completely, what I mean is do not inhale, so don't diffuse, don't put any aroma pendant, do not apply topically at any amount, and do not ingest. So do not use at all. AKA get your bottles out of your house. Do not use these essential oils. And you may unfortunately recognize some of these names in blends that you may already have. So check your blends as well. So we have anise and anise seed, anise star, basil, specifically the estragol chemotype, basil, Madagascan, and pungent. There are lots of different kinds of basils, by the way. West Indian bay, brown or yellow camphor, the white one is fine. Bitter and sweet fennel, laurel leaf, mace, myrtle, aniseed myrtle, nutmeg. That's probably one that you have in some of your blends, right? Huon pine, ponderosa pine, ravinsara bark and leaf, sassafras, suganda, and tarragon. This is just some of the essential oils that contain potentially carcinogenic components. Other essential oils that have low levels of potentially carcinogenic constituents might be used if well diluted and used sparingly, following topical max guidelines and never ingested. But these are the ones that you should absolutely not use for that reason. Again, you can find a full list inside of the club. They are marked in Essential Oil Profiles and Essential Oil Safety Files, my other two books. But this gets you a good start of some of the blends that you may want to toss based on this information. So anyone have any questions about anything that I just said there about the topic of potentially carcinogenic essential oils? Please feel free to throw those in the comments. Otherwise, I am going to give you some good news because there's actually some anti-carcinogenic essential oils. So I'm going to talk about that next. All right. So there are some essential oils that contain constituents that are anti-carcinogenic. They inhibit one or more stages of a cancer's progression. This does not mean essential oils cure cancer. Just like it takes several factors for potentially carcinogenic essential oil constituents to cause cancer, it also takes a lot of work for these essential oils to help with preventing cancer. Sometimes the presence of anti-carcinogenic essential oil constituents can negate a carcinogenic potential of an essential oil. Some have anti-tumoral properties. So there are a few constituents that you can look for if you are looking at a GCMS report for any of these essential oils. And some of those that are anti-carcinogenic are benzaldehyde, A-carophylline, B-carophylline, geraniol, limonene, linalool, and nerolidol. Now, that does not mean any trace of these amounts are going to cure your cancer. That just means that these specific constituents have been found at some point in some study and some research to be anti-carcinogenic, and the higher amount the better when it comes to that. So just, know your essential oil and know your constituent. All right. So some of the essential oils that contain one or more of these anti-carcinogenic constituents are basil, the linalool chemotype. It's the only basil that I actually recommend. All of the other ones are too risky. Clementine, copaiba, coriander seed, elemi, Siberian fir needle, geranium, grapefruit, lemon, lemongrass, lime, mandarin, maychang, sweet orange, palmarosa, black pepper, black pine, rosalina, tangerine, and ylang ylang. So those are some of the essential oils. All right. So some of you, I'm surprised nobody has yet asked me about frankincense and cancer. So I'm going to talk a minute about that. All right. Because there's a lot of information out there that you probably have seen and heard, especially if you're researching this topic, that claims that frankincense essential oil can cure cancer, and that is not true. It's actually impossible, and I will explain why. I do think the motive behind people, companies, marketing departments pushing frankincense for this situation is because it's so expensive, number one. It's great to have any sort of reason, especially something as dramatic as cancer and serious as cancer. It's a great idea from a marketing perspective to push a very expensive essential oil and make these wild claims, because purchasing a bottle of frankincense essential oil is going to be way more affordable than most other, cancer treatments. And it's something that's easily obtained and it's worth a shot and everything. But I'm telling you, frankincense essential oil does not cure cancer. It's impossible. All right. So frankincense resin, however, is a different story. So it's the boswellic acid that has a lot of studies behind it showing how effective it can be for this topic. It's the frankincense resin that contains boswellic acid. I actually have back over there in my box over here, I actually have some frankincense resin, and it can look like little rocks. It can look like it's basically it's just gum from a tree basically, and that contains boswellic acid, and it is anti-tumoral, but due to its molecular size, once steamed, distilled, and processed, the boswellic acid, the molecular structure, it's too large, and the size is too large, and the weight is too heavy for it to be distilled over into the essential oil. It's physically impossible. It's just not going to happen. However, you can find the boswellic acid in the resin and the extract. So the extract would be taking that resin, putting it in alcohol or some other medium. You can even use a carrier oil, but however you want to extract it. And what happens is that resin gets diluted and extracted into that oil. And then you can pull the resin out and you will have some of those therapeutic properties remaining in that solvent, in that extract. So those are two areas that you can, or two versions of frankincense basically, that you can get boswellic acid. And it's not going to be in the essential oil. All right, so some final thoughts about potentially carcinogenic essential oils It's important to note that not everyone will respond to the same substances in the same way. The human body is just way too complex. One person might consume essential oils on a daily basis for a year before they notice adverse effects. Others may feel ill after one ingestion. There are many factors such as individual diet, overall health, age, and other environmental exposures that can affect risk, but it can be boiled down to this. All right? If you've remembered anything or learned anything from this live, remember this. Even write it down, cut and paste it from the course area, whatever you have to do. This is super, super important. Super important. The longer that you have been exposed to high dose dilutions or oral consumption of, I'm going to say, it says here potentially carcinogenic essential oils, but to any type of essential oils, the higher your risk is going to be in general. But specifically here, it says the longer you have been exposed to high dose dilutions or oral consumption of potentially carcinogenic essential oils, the higher your risk for developing cancer. And this can be said in general, like the more often you use essential oils, the longer you have been exposed, whether it's a long inhalation, whether it's frequent topical applications without diluting, whether it's ingesting, the more that you are consuming, literally and figuratively, the essential oil, the higher your chance for adverse reaction is. So that is super, super important to understand and know that if you had been ingesting essential oils previously and you're listening now and you're like, oh, I didn't realize, I had no idea what constituents were. I had no idea how complex this was. I had no idea how scientific this is. Don't be alarmed. It's okay. Just start over now. When we know better, we do better. We learn, we can have a fresh start, and we can start using essential oils safely now that we know more information and now that we can do better, right? So that is almost the end. What else do I have here? There's no exact science to this, as everyone is different. If you are one of the high risk groups, then you need to use extra caution. So that is an excerpt from my book, which correlates with a free course. So this is not a way to get you to buy my book. I do not have any more in stock. They all sold out. Do not buy this book. But you can access this information inside the free course, and the considerations for all is one of the modules that you can click on once you get inside of there. And so the topic for today that you guys wanted to learn about was safety issues that can affect everybody. So if you have enjoyed this, I know most people will watch the replay. If you have enjoyed this, let me know. And if there's enough interest, then I will consider doing this again next week, maybe picking a different topic. I think the second most voted topic was the one on shelf life. So I might do that one to next week, so please let me know. And if you have any questions as you're going through the replay and you're watching and I'm not here live anymore, feel free to type your question in, and if Facebook allows me to see it, if they notify me, then I can check it out and answer. Okay, Stacy, thank you so much. Yes, you need to get into that course. And some people are like, oh, I can't do a course. I don't have time for a course. It sounds too overwhelming. But all you have to do is check out and click on the areas that interest you. There are several different areas. You don't have to read the entire thing from beginning to end, although it won't take very long. But there's an introduction to essential oils. We have the choosing brands. We have the considerations for all that I just went over. We have considerations for some. So this would be, pregnancy, asthma, elderly, medications, etc. Considerations for children. We have considerations for pets. And then we have a topic on inhaling essential oils, as well as the topical use of essential oils. And then finally, of course, we have information on the internal use of essential oils. So you can jump around different areas that interest you, different topics. If you don't have pets, don't read the information about pets. If you don't have kids, same thing. So skip around in the course, click on the modules that interest you. There's individual lessons in each module that correlate with it, different sections here in the book, and you can just skip around and learn as you are interested and as you are able. You do not have to do the whole thing from beginning to end, which is why I did not force the linear progression through the course. I allowed it open access so that you can pick and choose the information that you want. So you're welcome, Diana. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying until the end, those of you that did. And if you have any questions, again, please let me know, and I hope you all have a great day. Talk to you later.